Please help me to reach 1,000 subscribers. I never thought a few words could change everything, but apparently they could. My name is Clarissa, I'm 31, and I always believed that marriage was about compromise, love, and above all, patience. I married Mark when I was 27, and for the first few years, everything seemed perfect. He was kind, attentive, and steady, the kind of man who could anchor anyone in the storm. I, on the other hand, was chaotic, fiery, full of dreams that didn't always align with his. We balanced each other in ways I thought were ideal. But somewhere along the line, that balance shifted. I started feeling restless, as though my soul was wandering while I stayed physically tethered to our life together. I tried to ignore it at first, telling myself that what I felt was temporary, just a phase I had to pass. Mark, ever patient, never complained. He didn't push, he didn't argue, he simply loved. And perhaps that was my problem. I took his love for granted, believing it would always be there, unshaken, unquestioned. The night it all fell apart started like any other. We were at home, our kids asleep, the living room quiet except for the soft hum of the television. I had been scrolling through my phone, sipping a glass of wine, when a thought struck me, and I couldn't stop myself from saying it aloud. You know, Mark, I began, voice casual, almost teasing, you're just the father of my kids. Not my soulmate. IFFO. The words hung in the air longer than I expected. I didn't see the immediate reaction in his eyes at first because he was looking at the floor, absently folding the throw blanket over our sofa. But when he finally looked up, everything changed. There was no anger, no shout, no dramatic outburst. Just a quiet, piercing disappointment that I could feel all the way to my bones. Clarissa, he said slowly, carefully, that's a lot. His voice was calm, almost eerily so, but the weight behind it was crushing. Do you understand what you just said? I laughed lightly, attempting to soften the blow, thinking maybe he was overreacting. It's not a big deal, Mark. I'm just being honest. But honesty, as I quickly realized, doesn't always land the way you think it will. It isn't just words, it's context, timing, delivery, and in my case, years of taking him for granted. He shook his head the way someone shakes their head when words fail them. Clarissa, honesty isn't meant to hurt. And what you just said, FAFO'd, whatever that means, sounds like you've been keeping me at arm's length all this time. I blinked, trying to gauge whether this was a breakdown or just a momentary sting. I didn't mean it like that. I was just venting. But Mark didn't respond immediately. He simply got up and started walking toward the kitchen. My heart thudded in my chest because something inside me was screaming that this time was different. He was quiet, deliberate, methodical. Not the man who would argue, plead, or try to convince me I was wrong. He was simply leaving in the way that some people leave, slowly, in pieces that don't make sense until you look back. Mark, I called after him, but he didn't turn. His hand paused on the fridge handle for a fraction of a second, then continued moving as if my voice barely existed. That silence was louder than any argument we'd ever had. We sat at the dining table later, a palpable distance between us. I kept expecting him to explode, to yell, to demand an explanation, but he didn't. He simply stared at his hands resting on the table, and I felt my confidence waver for the first time. The playful sarcasm I had wielded for years suddenly felt like a weapon pointed directly at my own heart. You know, Clarissa, he finally said, voice calm but loaded, you've made a choice with those words. You're telling me I'm enough to raise our children but not enough for your soul. Do you even see what that does to someone who's given everything? I tried to respond, to offer the classic, I didn't mean it, but the words felt empty. They always did when the damage had already been done. He continued, eyes unwavering, a storm of quiet intensity. I've loved you, stood by you, believed in you. And now, suddenly, I'm not the one you see, the one you want to wake up next to, the one you share your dreams with. I'm just a fixture. The father of our kids. That's all. I opened my mouth, tried to interject, but the silence he left after that statement was deafening. It filled the room, pressing against my chest, leaving me dizzy with the weight of my own arrogance. Every playful jab I had made over the years, every comment meant to tease, to jest, to push, suddenly seemed like a list of charges against me. FAFO'd, he said, almost whispering now. You played and you find out. I'm done trying to be the man you only notice when it's convenient. I deserve more than that. Our kids deserve more than that. And you, his gaze pierced me like ice. You need to figure out what you really want. I felt the room tilt, the floor beneath me unsteady. I tried to laugh it off, tried to brush it aside as though words could be undone. But they couldn't. And for the first time, I realized that maybe, just maybe, I had underestimated him all along. Mark didn't yell, didn't storm out, didn't slam doors. He simply walked into the bedroom, collected his things and left. And in the quiet that followed, with the faint hum of the television still running, I felt a hollow ache that words could never fill. I sat there for hours, replaying the words in my head, tracing back every moment I had taken his patience, his love, his presence for granted. And I understood, with a clarity that was both painful and inevitable, that some mistakes don't have second chances. Some jokes aren't harmless. Some truths, spoken without thought, can fracture everything you thought was secure. By the next morning, Mark hadn't returned. His coffee cup was still on the counter, untouched, like a silent reminder that absence can speak louder than any argument. I tried calling, texting, leaving messages that begged for explanation, but they went unanswered. And in that silence, I understood something essential. He had stepped away not out of anger but out of self-respect. The house felt emptier than it had ever felt before. The laughter of our kids in the other room sounded muted, hollowed out by the tension that lingered like a storm cloud. I watched them, trying to reconcile the woman I had been with the mother and wife I was supposed to be. And in that reflection I saw my own recklessness, the cavalier disregard for someone who had given me everything. Time stretched out, each day heavier than the last. And with every passing hour, I realized that the man I had underestimated, the one I had assumed would always forgive, always endure, was not weak. He was stronger than I could have imagined. And I was left to navigate the aftermath, the echo of my own choices reverberating through every corner of our home, in every glance I stole at our sleeping children, in every empty space where his presence had once been.